Bum 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 bum. The Peter Like Show. Bum 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 bum. A happy Thanksgiving 2024. So amid all the bad news and all the asking for prayers, I'm going to be thankful for this one video. And please pray that these things that I'm thankful for continue to happen by leaving a like on this video. So the number one thing I got to be thankful for is that this past week, a friend of mine set me up for a blind date, and it turned out very well. I made a new friend. I wouldn't say it's relationship material, but I made a new friend, and I got to see her again last night, and also today. My friend who does the meetup group hosted a Thanksgiving party at his home, and I'm also very thankful that I introduced him to the concept of investing in precious metals. He had no idea what silver was worth. This is a guy who's about 10 years my senior, and so he literally, for the first time in his life, Googled the value of silver. Oh man, that's a scary concept that you could go so many decades on this planet Earth and take for granted our financial system and not know uh, what even what silver is. That so it was really nice to introduce somebody to that, and that's just such a scary concept. I thought only the younger generation would behave like that, right? And that was good. And I offered another reward for the next blind date somebody is going to set me up with. I started low this time because I realized I want to do a lot more of these. And but the good news is that it's not limited to just anybody can win more than one time, right? If you have multiple people you want to set me up with, here's the system I came up with. I started the reward today with one of my best bismuth geodes. It's got about 2-3 pounds of bismuth, and it's the best one I've ever poured. And every week that my reward goes unclaimed, I'll add a little bit of something, right? We'll make it a surprise every week on Friday. If you know me, I'll show you guys the reward in person. If you live locally and you watch my channel, I'll unveil it every weekend on this video. If it goes unclaimed, I'm hoping that every week something gets claimed, because when I looked at the statistics, one in every 40 or so dates ends up in a marriage. And then obviously not every marriage is ideal, right? I don't think I need to tell you guys that, right? And so I'm shooting for about 200 dates before I make any sort of commitment. It might not be a marriage, but make any sort of long-term kind of commitment. And so I'm shooting for once a week over the next 3 to 4 years, right? And so I was thinking about the reward. I offered a big reward the first time around because my heart was in a state of emergency, and I'm really thankful this past week for the first couple of nights in many many years I slept without a broken heart. That cannot be expressed in words. It really cannot. The best analogy I can give is you finally had your heart surgery of some sort, right? It had a mental health kind of surgery, if you will. And it was the equivalent of that, right? And I think most people would gladly pay $1,000 or $2,000. That would be a very good value. That might only be your insurance deductible, right? If you needed to have surgery of that sort, right? And so it was very very much worth it. And plus, I educated a good friend about investing in precious and strategic metals, right? And so what was really funny was that when he looked up the metals, he didn't he first of all he knew the bar was silver because it said on it. He didn't know what the crystals and the Buddha that I made were, and he guessed that he looked up the silver price and he guessed that the Buddha metal was worth a lot more. And he said, we can't take all of this. Are you kidding me? Silver and then this even more valuable stuff. And when he said it, I had to resist the temptation to tell him how stupid he was. And then my second thought was, well, no, he's not stupid. He's actually smarter than everybody else who's dumb enough to buy silver. Right? So it gave me a nice warm fuzzy feeling when he when he said that. And someday someday no, not that long from now, when he's talking to his grandchildren about the time that some guy gave him all these medals for setting him up on a date. The silver is going to be worth very little in comparison to all the other stuff that I gave him, and his grandchildren are going to wonder why he felt so guilty about taking a silver bar, right? And so that was a nice warm fuzzy feeling, and so I got to educate him on that. The other thing I want to be thankful for is that I learned. Well, it wasn't my first time learning this, but I really took it to a high gear this time around. Is that eating celery uh, makes your body smell attractive for some reason. I don't really understand the science behind it, but I do it anyway. Why? Because celery is very inexpensive and it doesn't really have too many harmful side effects, even if you eat a lot of it. And so it's one of those why not things, right? It's called, believe it or not, there's a scientific term for it. It's called Pascal's wager. If you can go to Las Vegas and you can bet $5 with, and if you win an infinite amount of money. Even if the odds of that infinite amount of money are low, you wager it, right? And it's the same reason why I invest in strategic metals, right? Because the return is just for pennies on the dollar compared to gold and silver, the amount of return is just uncalculable, right? Um, just look at how my friend reacted. He didn't know anything about metals, right? He judged them based on how they looked, and look at how he reacted to the valuations of those two metals, right? And so it's one of those. Why not, right? Actually, I had to make another Pascal's wager before I went to the Thanksgiving party today. You see, I have food allergies. When I go to a Thanksgiving party like that, there's no guarantee I'm going to find suitable food at the party, right? I also have anxiety as it is. The last thing I want to do is to go to a party starving, expecting to find something, the food's not there, and then be in a panic attack, especially when you consider how many people are going to be at a Thanksgiving party like that. There's going to be a large crowd, right? First of all, I probably would have to gently talk to the host and say, I have some allergies. Why don't we find out about who prepared this? It's a bother to a lot of people, right? And the host was very nice. He even, before the party, he had a number of announcements to make, and he included in there to please keep the food separate. We have a few guests with allergies, so that was really nice on his part. But I had to make a wager because I also didn't want to go there with a full stomach and then see something that I love and not be able to eat, right? Especially if, the girl that he set me up on the date, I prepared something, or he prepared something, or any number of another girl that might want to make a move on prepares. Oh my God, I have a full stomach, right? I didn't want to do that either. I also didn't want to go starving and run into a panic attack, right? So I did a little bit of a Pascal's wager. I'll let you pause the video to think about the bet that I took. Well, I hedged my bets. I went there about half full, and also I kept a chocolate bar in my pocket. So I kind of hedged my bets, and it turned out well. And it turned out there was food that was decent there, and I wasn't too disappointed because I realized the alternative could have been a whole lot worse, right? So the Pascal's wager kind of looks like that, right? If I went there with an empty stomach, there is a probability that the girl that I like prepared something that's beautiful, and I get to dig in. That would have been a very high outcome, right? But you know what? Go in there half full, and she prepares something I like. That's not that much lower anyway. It might even be better because I'll be in a good position to have good table manners, right? I'm not going to be shoveling the food down my throat, right? Now let's look at the other options. I go there uh, starving, and all of the foods have milk products. They all have MSG in them. They all have sugar in them. That's disaster waiting to happen, right? That's going to probably result in me being kicked out of the party, if not the police showing up, right? I have really bad anxiety as it is, right? And so you can call that negative infinity. Help out if I go there on a full stomach and all the foods have problems in them. Well, I get to maybe educate these people about these idiots about what they're eating, it might not be the best thing. I have a tendency to get carried away with educating people. And actually, this quadrant happened before. 20 years ago, a Thanksgiving party like this was guaranteed to be loaded with sugar and MSG, and may not even have had water, right? May have only had soda, right? And I often went there at full stomach with my own food, and often I couldn't resist educating others around the table. It's not as bad as the other quadrant we were talking about, the potential of full blown anxiety attack, right? But it's still on the it's negative something, right? We'll call this negative some finite number, right? So you could draw out that Pascal's wager table, and you can see going on a somewhat full stomach, it was the better side of the bet, right? And so that's the wager I took. Actually, I went a step further. I went there half full with the other half of my food in my pocket, right? That way I could still hedge things once I got there and got a sense of what was going on. So I really love that. I'm going to have to use this example the next time I teach something related to this, right? I teach math at a community college, and you also have to consider the probabilities, right? 20 years ago, the probability of not finding suitable food was a lot higher than it is today, right? So if we time travel 20 years ago, I probably wager a little bit differently, right? I probably go there with 120% full stomach, right? Not a 70% with some food in my pocket, right? So it really depends on your knowledge of the outside world, right? Take this a step further. If we had traveled to Taiwan, maybe I could go to the party with a 30% full stomach, right? There's much more health consciousness in Taiwan, right? Take this a step further. Had this party been at my favorite Thai restaurant in Seattle, I used to have a favorite Thai restaurant over in Seattle. Oh, I could go on an empty stomach now. I trust these people. Maybe I'll go on a 10-20% full stomach, right? And maybe keep that chocolate bar in my pocket still, of just in case, right? Because the girl is way too important for me, right? You get the idea, right? It gets to be a little bit of a mind game, right? And that's why if you can take a small amount of your wealth, like 1%, and invest in something and buy a lot of it, 1% of your wealth could probably buy a good fraction of all the bismuth of Evermind, right? And in the worst case, what, you lose 1%, maybe not even, because you can make art out of it. And come on, who hasn't spent 1% decorating their homes? Even just for the holiday season, you probably would spend 1% to decorate your home, right? Right. And so right, what's the average net worth of an average American? Net worth of average American, it is a little over $1 million. Take 10,000 of it, and you could buy about a ton of bismuth, right? I guarantee in the space of 10 holiday seasons, you spend $10,000, right? Just deck the halls with strategic metals, right? Just do that instead, right? And decorate your home, right? And at the very least, you've decked the halls with strategic metals, right? In the best case, you might become a billionaire, right? And so that's Pascal's wager in a nutshell, and I played it very well today, and I'm very grateful for that. The other thing that I am grateful for is that now that I have a good relationship with this meetup group, it's made me have a lot more bandwidth to deal with untoward stuff that's happening elsewhere. I have a couple toxic situations. I won't say people, situations with a coworker. I don't think my coworker is doing things intentionally. I think there's been just a series of bad luck. And you know what? I get to be the bigger person in it all. And I told my colleague had canceled a Christmas party that she had gotten me all wired up for, and I I was gonna. She told me she was overwhelmed, and then she showed up. She called in sick yesterday, and so I got to be the bigger person and said, "I wish her well. If there's anything I could do for her, let me know. If there's any material I can look over for you. I know she's writing course material and all that." And sorry that your Christmas party didn't get to go. And then I did a little reading about what she and her other friends were into, and I prepared some gifts for them. Her friends were into Donald Trump, and I just happened to have a graphite mold for pouring Donald Trump coins, and I got to figure out. They love JFK as well. I got to figure. I don't have a mold for JFK. What I could do is get some kind of material that I could press stuff into, right? Clay or something, silly putty or something that will pour molten metal. Then I can press a Kennedy half dollar into it, and then I could pour metal, right? I'll look into that. Um, but so I got to be the bigger person there. I had the capacity to be the bigger person. A lot of times, I don't. Right? I'm leaping from one serious emergency to the next serious mental crisis, health crisis, and so I now have the capacity to do that. I've been practicing. Not, you know what? Not that I would want to do this professionally, but lately I find myself fascinated, and I wrote an AI for this, with the concept of card counting again. And let me I'm going to do some fortune telling with a deck of cards, and I'm going to count it. I'll explain in a second. So that's a +1. Okay, that zeroes out. 0, 0, +2, plus +1, +1, +2, +1, +1, +2, +3. So this would be a good time to place a bet, right? You got a +3 count if it's a 1 or 2 deck game, right? So I wrote an AI to see if there are any good because nowadays a lot of blackjack tables at the casinos, they have rule variations that are really unfavorable. But there's one rule variation that I like. Google this. It's called free bet blackjack. What it is that it lets you double and split your bets for free. The caveat is that the dealer busts. If the dealer busts to 22, they push the hand. And the reason I like that is that the house edge is not so bad. I mean, it's worse than conventional blackjack, but it's a lot more favorable to card counting, because if you have a lot of tens in the deck, it really favors you in that game because you can split them for free. You can't do that in conventional blackjack, right? And there's a lot less scrutiny, right? Not too many. Everybody says card counting is a bad idea in any of the blackjack variants, and so I really think that's where the golden nugget really is. I got to do some more AI programming though to see what is going on. I suspect you're going to need a huge bankroll to make it work. Well, though. So if you need like $10,000 to start with just to make minimum wage, right? Then I don't know. But it'd be a curiosity more than anything else. I think if I were to discover the secret, I'm much more likely to write a book about it than to actually go practice it. Right? It's not my style, right? I'm not for those kind of environments. But I'm going to write some AI for that. Wish me luck for that. I think the guy who set me up on this date, he might be the guy to try something like that, right? Maybe we could team up. Who knows, right? But it's keeping me occupied. 3 weeks ago, there was no way I could sit down to do this. I was so consumed with heartbreak, with grief. I was sleeping with a broken heart almost every night, and so I'm very thankful that for once I could actually do something fun, right? And uh, so, all right, let's do another round of counting the score, because that was good, right? If the count is +3, we could think of that as a good fortune for my life going forward, right? Let's see. Okay, that's a -1, -1, -2, -3. Okay, you'd want to walk out of that. Shoot, right? If this were 1 or 2 decks, if it were 6 decks, it might be okay, right? So we got a -3, -4, -3, -3, -3, -4, -3, -2, -1, -2, -1, 0, 1, 0, 1. This might be okay because we only have like 2/3 of the deck left, and we got a 1, right? Okay, that zeroes it out. 1, 1, 2. Okay, this is where I would go bet, right? You got half a deck. Actually, a little bit more than half a deck. And you got, what was it, a 2? So it's really a true probably 3 or 4, right? So you got You got a 1% advantage. But I gotta do the simulations on the free bet blackjack. I asked one of my friends on YouTube. He runs a card counting channel. He just adamantly says, do not play the free bet blackjack, and like no if ands or buts. But I think that's exactly why you want to do it, because nobody's watching it, right? And I got to do some math about it. All right, that's probably gonna be my next pet project. And I'll keep you guys updated. Happy Thanksgiving. Please show your support by liking this video. Let's pray to the God of Peter Likes. This is the Peter Like Show. Bum 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 bum. The Peter Like Show. Bum 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 bum. Bum 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 bum. The Peter Like Show. Bum 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 bum. Bum 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 bum. The Peter Like Show. Bum 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 bum.